Hey everyone, Tim Schofield here. And today, Huawei announced the P40 series of phones. They have the P40, the P40 Pro, and the P40 Pro Plus. So 3 new phones. Now in this video, I'm gonna check out the P40 Pro, and this one and the Plus feature an all-around waterfall design. So I'm curious to see what that's going to look like with curved sides on all parts of the phone. Also excited to test out the camera on the P40 Pro. The Plus model actually zooms in all the way up to 100x and has 10 times optical zoom, 20 times hybrid zoom. So I'm hoping Huawei at some point will send over that Plus model so I can kind of test it against the Ultra. But in the meantime, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at the Huawei P40 Pro, quickly look inside, get some hands-on with the phone. Let's get started. Let's get started with the P40 Pro, and I'm really gonna focus on the hardware of this device. As you can tell on the front of the box, it says explore it on App Gallery. That is because Huawei does not use Google Play services at all, so you will not find the Play Store on this phone whatsoever. For that reason, it's kind of hard to recommend to people in the US and some other markets as well. But either way, I am pumped to see what Huawei has to offer in terms of hardware, because in the past, their hardware has been really good, including their cameras. Setting the phone to the side for just a second, let's continue and quickly look at what comes in the box. So you do have a SIM ejection tool. Also an extra, nice of Huawei to include extras. Looks like there is a case, so we'll throw this on the phone in just a second. Looks like you do get another extra, some headphones, and this is USB-C headphones because there is no headphone jack. Those do look very similar to the ones they've included in the box in the past. And finally, your AC adapter, which is USB Type A, and your USB Type A to USB Type C cable. Notice there's a bit of a purple accent on the inside, which is kind of neat, in my opinion, that they have an accent. And then when it comes to that adapter, it is Huawei Supercharge, so it has a max of 40 watts of power. Onto the P40 Pro, which I did just boot up. You will see it does have a fingerprint scanner in display, which they did say is 30% larger and 30% faster. So I will test that out. Let's go ahead and peel the plastic off. And on the back, it says not for sale, other stickers as well. And while it boots up, now it's completely booted up, let's take a closer look at the hardware of this phone. So down at the bottom, you have one of the speakers, a USB-C slot for charging, a microphone, and then you have your SIM card slot, but you can also expand the storage, not with a micro SD card, with Huawei's proprietary nano memory card. I have one of those, so I'll show you that in just a second. Moving along the right side, you'll notice the side is flat. However, the back and front are curved, but there's a bit of a flat side to grab onto. On the buttons, you have your volume rockers, and then the power button has a nice orange little coloring to it with a bit of texture to it so you can differentiate between the power button and the volume rockers. Up at the top, you have a microphone and an IR blaster, which is kind of nice. Huawei includes that. I like using it to control my TVs and other things. Not many manufacturers actually include that anymore. Looking at it from the side, the camera does have a bit of a bump out of the phone. Now let's take a close look at that quad camera system on the P40 Pro. On the back, you have a 50 megapixel wide angle lens, which uses Huawei's RYYB sensor to allow in more light in lower light scenarios. So I'm actually pretty excited to take some more pictures in lower lights. You also have a 40 megapixel ultra wide angle lens and a zoom lens. This one is a periscope 12 megapixel lens with up to 5 times optical zoom. Like I said, in comparison with the Plus, that has 10 times optical zoom. And finally, that fourth lens is a TOF 3D depth sensing lens. Now don't forget about that front-facing camera, which takes on that punch hole design, and it does have a depth sensing lens along with that 32 megapixel wide angle lens. Before we take a look at the curved sides to the front of the phone, I'm going to quickly run through the setup process and only talk about anything noteworthy. Let's set up that in-display fingerprint scanner. So setting it on down, just go ahead and lift it up and place it. And then once we do set this up, I will go ahead and test it once we get to that home screen. That was super quick. Now let's just go ahead and capture the edges. Like I said, they did tout that it is about 30% faster and a little bit larger of a sensor too, which is nice because you don't want to have to be very precise with where you set it every single time. All right, you can add more in settings later, rename specific ones if you want to. Now also, I'm going to set up face recognition because it does have infrared, so it should work well in lower light. Okay, let's get started and make sure my face is in the frame. Hold it a little lower, setup complete. That was so quick. And we're good to go with Face Unlock and our fingerprint scanner. We are now on the home screen, so let's take a look at that OLED display in the P40 Pro. It is 6.58 inches and 2640 by 1200 screen resolution. And like I mentioned, it does have curved sides, but it also curves down. You'll see once the screen stops, there's a bit of a curvature on the bottom of it, along with the top. You can really see it when you take a look at those corners. You'll see how it raises and then comes back down because it actually does curve down. And as usual, Huawei did a good job having minimal bezels on their phone, of course with the help of this front-facing camera, which I mentioned does have infrared in it, so Face Unlock should be really quick. You'll see slide up to open. This is with the camera in front of my face, just unlocks right away. Don't even need to use that in-display fingerprint scanner, but we will. Let's go ahead and test it out. So let's go ahead and set our finger down, unlock it right away. Go ahead and turn this on, set our finger down, and it does seem to be extremely quick. Let's kind of put it next to it, and that still unlocked it. So as you can see, since the sensor's a little bit larger, I did put my thumb kind of next to it and it's still unlocked. You do have different gestures as well. So if I jump into settings and go into sounds, I can swipe from the left or right side to go back, swipe up to go home, swipe up and pause to get to my recent apps. So really nice that they do include some gestures out of the box. I'm also noticing how smooth this is. So the display also features a higher refresh rate up to 90 hertz, and I can tell already that it's enabled by default because of how smooth things are looking. It looks like you can actually bump it down to 60 hertz if you'd like to. I recommend keeping it on 90 hertz. Now with 90 hertz, it's a little bit less than it is on the Galaxy S20 because they included 120 hertz. However, Huawei said that they went with 90 hertz to help with battery life. And speaking of battery life, 4,200 milliamp hours, and when you charge it wirelessly, you can get up to 27 watts speeds, which is crazy that you can get that via wireless charging. I believe you do need a specific wireless charger to hit those speeds. And then of course, wired charging is going to be 40 watts. When it comes to internals, it does have the Kirin 990 processor, which is Huawei's own processor, 256 gigs of storage, 8 gigabytes of RAM. If we do jump into storage, I haven't really installed anything. You'll see it is used 14.53 gigs out of the 256. And as I mentioned, you can expand that storage. Huawei did send over the nano memory card, 128 gigs if you'd like to expand it. And if you wanted a close look, here is the small size of it. Looks fairly similar to how a micro SD card does. Now, if you also want to hop into settings and go to About Phone, you see they do have EMUI 10.1. That's the version they're on, which is based on AOSP Android 10. So it is based on Android, but you're not going to be getting those Android updates. You will be getting those EMUI updates from Huawei. Now, of course, let's jump into that camera app, switch camera modes, location tag. Here we go. So looking at the viewfinder, we can just snap a couple quick pictures. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, on this icon right here, you can tap on it, and it looks like it brings up an option to slide on over, and there's your wide angle lens, which I'm actually really happy they did include. I would have been upset if they didn't. And then you can zoom all the way up to 50x on this phone. Obviously, I'm not outside, so 50x isn't really going to do very much. And like I mentioned, 5 times optical zoom. So if we do zoom in 5 times, you're not losing any quality. It is optical zoom. So let's go ahead and go into the gallery and take a look at that picture that I just took of this plant. And as you can see, just not losing any quality out of that telephoto lens. Checking out some of the other modes, portrait to blur that background. I'm gonna turn beauty mode off for now. They do have a night mode, which takes a long exposure. Excited about that one. Aperture mode's actually really nice too. I almost like using aperture mode over portrait because it doesn't necessarily need to find a face. You can actually take pictures of objects and get a blurred background. There's a camera pro mode, and going into more, here's just a look at a ton of different options this camera has. And finally, let's go ahead and just throw the included case on the phone so you can take a look. It is just a clear case, as you can see, so if you do get a certain color, you will still be able to see it. Down at the bottom, cutouts for the speaker and your ports. The buttons are actually covered on the back. The camera cutout is actually protected by this case. It actually overlaps a little bit on the bump, which is nice to see. And it does feel comfortable in the hand, doesn't cover up any of that curved sides to the display. And overall, that is it for the unboxing of the Huawei P40. More to come, so be sure to click that subscribe button. Really cool looking device. I am excited to try out this camera specifically in lower light scenarios, so stay tuned for that. Drop a comment, let me know what you think about this device. And as always, guys, thank you very much for watching.